whip it up. Hey, that's for cows, not cats. Check out the difference between the broilers here and the little pullets in the background. They're all the same age. I keep the cover on so they don't get in there, crap in it. But 7 weeks, light on 24 hours a day, right there. Keep the feeders full, water full, and get these birds out of here as quick as possible. Price of feed, there's no money in keeping chickens hanging around, so we want to get them fed and get them out of here as fast as we can. Get them to market, get them in the freezer. I can stop feeding them. We'll clean out that chicken house and keep the pullets up there for now, and we'll see how that goes. They should be about 6 to 7 pound birds. I would think so. They're big. Some people like to pasture their poultry, and I guess that's fine. You know, they do some grubbing out there and they eat a little bit of grass and they eat bugs and scratch around the cow manure and stuff, but you have to have the time to go out there every day and move them, and it's time that I don't have or that I want to spend on moving chickens. So I keep them in one spot, feed them for 7 weeks and get them out of here, and then done for the year. I've tried all those Premier One fencings, and you got to weed whack all around it. You got to keep it weed whacked. There's always an issue with the charger, with grass shorting it out, predators. I've tried the mobile chicken houses like Joel Salatin uses, and it's so much work dragging them, and then you end up getting chickens caught when you're moving it. There's always chicken. They always get pushed to the back, and then you run over chickens. It's not fun. In fact, I ended up selling a lot of my Premier One fencing last summer. It just, unless you got a lot of time, it's always tangled up, and it's kind of one of those things where you need 2 people to do it right, and you have to move it every day. It's just a lot of work, and it's just not something I want to do. All right, guys, wait up. With the bird flu, I'm not putting the chickens out like I used to. So I'm just putting them out 1 day a week, and I know it's still risky, but I like to get them out a little bit because the cows are out there, and they'll get out there and chew up some of the bugs and larvae in that cow manure. So that helps a little bit. I think I saw somewhere on YouTube yesterday, and I can't back up the facts that I saw, but they said the average span that a homesteader has a homestead, with all the animals and stuff, is about 6 years. And so I've been here going on 9 years. And like I said, my family has always had animals, so it's kind of just carried on a family tradition for me, albeit on a much smaller scale. I don't even like to use the word homesteader because I guess I watched too many cowboy movies growing up, and homesteaders to me is like, squatters. So I just say small farmer, and some people say hobby farm because, they're not really making any money off it, or they're just doing it for fun. And I am not a huge fan of the word hobby farm either, but I guess I like it better than homesteaders. So anyway, yeah, we just have a few cows and a few chickens. We had geese before, we've had ducks. And what happens is, even though they're great for in the garden, because geese and ducks don't dig up everything like the chickens do, trying to find a market for the duck eggs is not really feasible here. There's really not a market for them. Every once in a while you'll sell a dozen duck eggs, but it's just it's not something that people want. And ducks make a big mess wherever they go, so you can't really keep them with the chickens. You can keep 1 or 2 ducks with the chickens and they won't mess it up too bad. But if you get like 6 or 7 ducks in there with the chickens, they're slopping the water all over the place and makes the bedding muddy and smelly. And the geese, the geese are big and they eat a lot, and they muck it up too. And so the cost to return ratio, even though I think ducklings are cute and they're fun, and I like to watch them swim and everything, we don't have any ducks here anymore. So we have the sheep, and we mostly have katahdins and dorpers, and we have katahdin dorper cross. I do have one who's a Wensleydale katahdin. We've had some other wool sheep, but we're going to do some spinning, but it just never worked out. We were always just too busy to do that. We did have goats, and while we did enjoy the goats quite a bit, they were really hard to keep in, and they were friendly and fun, but they were always in the neighborhood in somebody else's garden, so we just decided that to be good neighbors, we shouldn't have goats here. And I did have a dairy cow, and she was a really nice cow, and she would feed the babies, the baby cows pretty well. But with half of my family being lactose intolerant, even with the A2 milk, we were getting like 8 gallons of milk a day and no place to put it. And since we don't really have pigs, we're actually allergic to pork. It doesn't set well with us. So between the cats and the dog and myself and the calves, we just couldn't use up 8 gallons a day. But we did have some nice cheese and butter, and the cream off the top for coffee in the morning was second to none. But so I'm down to 2 calves and 2 big cows, and the reason being is I am retired from the military and I'm technically disabled through the VA, so I can only do so much with my fibromyalgia and my migraines and arthritis and stuff. So there's a lot of days where I just can't even get much done. And in order to maintain anything, I have to have a small amount. With the kids all being gone, for the most part, I have to have what I can manage by myself. So we've shrunk down quite a bit, which is okay. As long as I can keep a few animals around, as long as I'm able to, I'm happy. And so we sell eggs, and we do sell cider. I did have a maple syrup operation, but it seemed like everybody in town had maple syrup as well, even though, my sap house has been here for 30, 40 years. It was just a lot of work, and I had an old wood-fired boiler, so we had to cut all the wood for that too, plus the wood for the house. So that ended up being too much. And so I can understand why people, 6 years for a homestead is probably about average. People get into it all gung-ho, and then they realize how much work it is, that they can't leave the house. That it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The animals have to be fed, taken care of, fences broken, plumbing broken, hay put in. There's always an expense for something, so I get it. And there's some days that I feel like quitting too, because it's a lot, and especially if you have a bad spell where you're not feeling good, and things are always going up in price, and sometimes it's hard to find a market for your things. But we're doing okay, and so I'm just going to keep on keeping on, I guess is the phrase I'm going to do. So anyway, let's go get the 140. I was spread manure with the cub, but the cub just isn't big enough. It can't go fast enough, and it's really a load on it to haul manure with it. And so technically that manure spreader was designed for a cub, but it really works better on the 140. So I'm going to use that tractor today with the Mahindra to load it. And I've got quite a bit of manure to get rid of, and then I've got some fences up back to take care of. So yeah, let's go get some work done around here. A couple years ago, I built this addition off the back, and I wished I'd had the money at the time. I would have continued pretty much the same size as this garage, and had an upstairs with a set of stairs or a ladder coming down with windows on it and the whole thing. It would have been really nice, but I had to make do with what I had. And so here's what I've got, and it's great for putting the 140 in.
These right here are genuine International Harvester cultivator wrenches, and I know they're from the 1940s because they were my father's. They fit these cultivators just perfect. Could I put more in there? Probably, but I don't want to overload it because number one, it'll spill all over the ground, and number two, why beat on it? It's just fine the way it is. This 140 is a 73, so it's 1 year newer than me. And they made these manure spreaders in the late 40s, early 50s. Then they changed it. This one's actually one of the older ones, and so it shouldn't say 100 manure spreader, it just should say 100 spreader on it. But the McCormick Deering is right. I'm actually going to take some compost and fill in some of these holes out here. If you remember last summer, I took my 1635 Mahindra and I popped a lot of rocks out, and I did put some compost in at the time, but it's kind of settled. So I want to put more compost in there, and I don't have any dirt to fill it in with, so it looks like compost it is. Here in Maine, we have two seasons, winter and black fly. Right now it's black fly season. Generally all these leaves, I'd come out here and burn them while there's still snow, because this would clear off the snow. The snow would be melted here first, and it'd still be snow up there and over here, and so I could come and just light this all up and burn it out, but I didn't get to it this year. Here's my fencing rig right there. And I can't get over here with the mower on it, so we're walking. So anyway, there were fences, some were up, some were down. I replaced some, mended some. Here's a cattle panel and some barbed wire. I basically put out whatever I had at the time. When they logged it off, they tore out quite a bit when they pulled the logs through. This ledge here is a lot bigger than it looks. Every once in a while I come up here and start a little fire and burn up some of this junk. There's still a lot left. Got a nice sag down in here to fix. This post outlived its usefulness. No rock. That's not going to work there. Doesn't work. When I first started building new fences, I bought this welded wire, and I bought it in 48 and 60-inch height, and it worked okay for sheep for the most part. Cows not so much because they just bend it over. So if you use it for cows, you got to put barbed wire with it. Obviously the dogs got loose too. This is so fun. There's some people when they do their little channels, they show everything all hunky-dory all the time. And usually it is, but this is reality TV right here. All kinds of good grass out here. I was gonna separate the cows and sheep anyway, I just wasn't planning on doing it today. Let's see. This will do it. Looks good to me. What are the chances I can find these new old stock? I'll show you what they are. They go on the back. Right there, and that's what holds the tines on. I've got a broken one, and now I've got a brand new one. I tried to find, there's some rods that stick out straight out of the back, and they're like to keep it from piling up too high, to keep the hay from piling up, you know, and getting all bunged up in there, but I can't find them, so I might just take some rebar and paint it and put it in here, because there's holes right here. There's one, two, there's one there, so we should be able to just put some rebar in there. So the foot trip thing is missing part of it. I had this rod, this is actually off my John Deere baler, and it almost goes right, but it's supposed to have a curve to it, so I can probably take a piece of rebar and bend that and hook it on the back. So that's supposed to be the foot trip, and there's supposed to be a gear on the wheels for the automatic trip, but I might end up just either having Aiden ride on the thing and dump it manually, or I'll hook a rope to it somehow, but I'll have to have a pulley down here so it pulls it down and then back up, so it'll actually have to have a, you know, pulley down here to get the angle right. And with the hatching, so far I have one little bird. So I know you're probably saying, why is that John Deere rake red and yellow? Well, the drawings I found from the period, which this would be 1912 to 1925, according to the information I could find on it, and they were yellow. Yellow wheels. This is John Deere yellow, John Deere green. See, this was all red, and then like the spokes or the spikes that went out the back to keep the hay from piling up too much, those were green also. Kind of cool to be red. It matches my red tractors. What the heck? Make sure you get all of that, huh? Last thing I have to do is go down here and set up a trough, because I moved the trough to the other place with the sheep are. I don't have one down here now, so we gotta put something down here. I'm gonna put one of those automatic drink cups down here. I have some I can take out. There's two in those two stalls right above me that I'm not using anymore. I'm gonna take the flail mower off the cub and put that down here. I can put it over there, and you can see that there's not much stuff left down here anymore, which is good. That's what I wanted. Get rid of some junk. Yeah, I've actually got room to park stuff down here now. So the stuff I want to keep undercover, I can, instead of leaving it outside. That's all I have for today. You got the added bonus of getting the cows out, literally out. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.